hard conversation. So after our first failed IVF, we didn't think I was making good enough eggs because my husband's sperm was fine, but our embryos were super shit. So it was like my fault, right? And hello, beautiful people. I'm trying something new. Instagram is only letting you put up 4 15-second videos, and I just can't like mentally think my way through like stopping going. It's retarded. Anyways, so this morning I went live with the awkward waiting womb, and we talked about keeping it real during infertility and walking the fine line about staying positive and having a really good outlook, but actually dealing with what is going on because it's hard. And I kept thinking about our answer today because these conversations and working within this community like really give me flashbacks of my own journey and things like you never I don't think of, well, I guess you wouldn't think of very often if you weren't doing this. But yeah, just having the hard conversation. So after our first failed IVF, we didn't think I was making good enough eggs because my husband's sperm was fine, but our embryos were super shit. So it was like my fault, right? And we started talking about donor eggs, and at that point I was so not emotionally ready to deal with that, and I pretty much just shut down the conversation because we had both decided that we were going to do another round of IVF after we improved our diet, and I said we will talk about it after the second IVF if our second IVF ended up as the same as the first. But yeah, I thought her answer of just, keeping it real with each other and having those really hard, heartfelt conversations about the next step in your journey if shit does not go the way you want it. So I thought it was super cool. So go check out the conversation and have a lovely rest of your day. So I thought it was super cool. So go check out the conversation and have a lovely rest of your day. Hard conversation. So after our first failed IVF, we didn't think I was making good enough eggs because my husband's sperm was fine, but our embryos were super shit. So it was like my fault, right? And we started talking about donor eggs, and at that point I was so not emotionally ready to deal with that, and I pretty much just shut down the conversation because we had both decided that we were going to do another round of IVF after we improved our diet, and I said we will talk about it after the second IVF if our second IVF ended up as the same as the first. But yeah, I thought her answer of just, keeping it real with each other and having those really hard, heartfelt conversations about the next step in your journey if shit does not go the way you want it. So I thought it was super cool. So go check out the conversation and have a lovely rest of your day. Hello, beautiful people. I'm trying something new. Instagram is only letting you put up 4 15-second videos, and I just can't like mentally think my way through like stopping going. It's retarded. Anyways, so this morning I went live with the awkward waiting womb, and we talked about keeping it real during infertility and walking the fine line about staying positive and having a really good outlook, but actually dealing with what is going on because it's hard. And I kept thinking about our answer today because these conversations and working within this community like really give me flashbacks of my own journey and things like you never I don't think of, well, I guess you wouldn't think of very often if you weren't doing this. But yeah, just having the hard conversation. So after our first failed IVF, we didn't think I was making good enough eggs because my husband's sperm was fine, but our embryos were super shit. So it was like my fault, right? And we started talking about donor eggs, and at that point I was so not emotionally ready to deal with that, and I pretty much just shut down the conversation because we had both decided that we were going to do another round of IVF after we improved our diet. And I said we will talk about it after the second IVF if our second IVF ended up as the same as the first. But yeah, I thought her answer of just, keeping it real with each other and having those really hard, heartfelt conversations about the next step in your journey if shit does not go the way you want it. So I thought it was super cool. So go check out the conversation and have a lovely rest of your day.
Good morning, beautiful people. Well, it's morning here in Hawaii. I know for most of you it's either midday or evening, but I am going live with the awkward waiting womb, and we're going to talk about being real and balancing joy, hope, faith with kind of the realism that is infertility. She's going to come on in 2 seconds.
Hi.
There she is. Hello, lady. Thanks so much for joining us and
Thanks for having me.
taking time on your lunch break to talk. I know we're pressed for time for you, so we are going to dive right in. So tell us a little bit about your journey at the moment.
Okay, that's pretty intense to put in a nutshell, but I'm going to try my best. We were diagnosed with infertility in June of 2018. I was originally diagnosed with PCOS, and my doctor suspected endometriosis, so we just went along with that. She didn't want to operate right off the bat because she was thinking that it would affect my fertility further. So we, did all the testing and everything, and that led to the PCOS diagnosis and endometriosis, her suspecting the endometriosis. And then at the time, we also learned that we were carriers of the same genetic disorder, so that meant that we would have a 1 in 4 chance of conceiving a child with Smith-Lemli-Opitz syndrome. So it was strongly recommended to us that we do IVF, and my husband actually lost his daughter from a previous relationship. So it was just kind of like if we could avoid that sort of tragedy again, we wanted to, so that IVF would be our option, or our only option. So from there, we started to figure out how are we going to pay for this, and we applied for grants, and we even put together a letter through the Infertility, Resolve, the National Infertility Institute, and asking his employer if they can consider coverage in 2019, and they actually heard our request. They took it seriously, and we got coverage. So it was like, okay, this was in September, so we're like, okay, we just need to hang out until 2019, and we'll be able to get this show on the road. So during that wait, I started to have this really weird gut feeling that something was off with my current doctor, and something just didn't feel right. So at that time, I started hearing commercials, radio commercials about a new clinic that was opening up about 5 minutes from my house, and I was doing an hour commute back and forth to Orlando. So 5 minutes was really quite the blessing. So we made a second opinion appointment. We kind of just jumped right in. It immediately clicked with our doctor. The following week, I was in surgery, having a laparoscopy and hysteroscopy to just see what's going on with the endometriosis. Found out I had stage 4, and it was just really bad. So she cleaned all that up, and from there, it was just kind of recovery for the next few months, because we had planned for March 2019 to be our start date for IVF. So in a preliminary appointment to get, talk about the protocol and everything for our first cycle, it was at that time I was diagnosed with diminished ovarian reserve. So that was like a far cry away from the PCOS that the original doctor had diagnosed me with. So that was a bit of a shock. She said that the endometriosis could have played a role in that, but she still doesn't really fully understand why my doctor diagnosed me with that, because I guess all my testing that was done really didn't indicate that. But anyways, that was a tough pill to swallow. We did our first cycle. We got 4 eggs, which was far cry away from the 30 eggs that my previous doctor said we'd get. 3 fertilized, and then we had 1 blast that arrested going into day 6. And that was, kind of, it shattered our world there for a little bit. We took a month off, and now here we are in the midst of IVF round 2.
Round 2. Yeah. God, that's a lot to take on, and it's just so frustrating when, you put so much trust in the doctors. And we had a similar experience. We changed clinics because our first IVF failed. And we went to this clinic because I knew there was something wrong. And I said, I want this immune testing. And they said, no, you're not a candidate for it. You're not having reoccurring miscarriages, so don't waste your money. So we listened. And our IVF failed again. And after that, then we went and said, no, we want this testing. And there it was our answer. So good on you for just following your intuition and just going, no, something's off right now. Yeah. There's just a little medical. Someone's asking about your grant. So you went to Resolve, which is a great charity to help you. They just kind of teach you or show you how to apply for these grants?
Well, we applied for grants, but what we ended up doing also was putting together a letter to request coverage through my husband's employer, just as part of their benefits package. Okay. And Resolve has a lot of really awesome resources that can help you put together that letter. Just, guidance and everything on who to go to and the wording and everything. And I would be happy to share with anybody if anybody wants to reach out and see what I specifically submitted to, or my husband submitted to his employer that we put together. I'd be more than happy to share that. Okay. But Resolve was really helpful in that, and it was really exciting to actually get that coverage.
Yeah, massively. I mean, that's just an extra stressor that gets put on to you, and as much as you try not to stress. You do, right?
Oh yeah. The financial aspect has been really frustrating. I think that's just the hardest part about it. Sometimes is just the money aspect. So that was a blessing.
Definitely. Yeah, we paid for everything. I mean, in hindsight, we were lucky we did it in the United Kingdom, so it is actually a little bit less there. But even though there's, anyways, that's another long-ass story.
That's a whole other fish to fry,
So one of your posts was really caught my eye. It was talking about being real. And obviously, I do a lot of positive stuff on here. And I feel like I'm the support system for people going through it, because I know it's just hard to keep up that positivity. But there is a really fine line between being positive and being real. But someone sent you a comment, and I don't want to go on too much about it because I want to harp on people, and everyone has their own journey. But what was that comment, and what set you off about it?
So I did a post, was it a few weeks back, as part of that Hands Up for Infertility campaign that Journey to Baby started. And it was, my thing was about, infertility is exhausting, because it just is. And that's what I wrote about. I mean, I think we can all relate, no matter where we're at in this journey, that infertility, the treatments, wherever, it's exhausting. So
just waiting.
Sorry,
you cut out.
I'm sorry, was that me? I think my service just completely took a crap, basically.
That's all right. You were going to tell us about the comment you got after saying that infertility was exhausting.
Yeah. Like I said, the comment, I think it was coming from a good place. I don't think anybody had any malicious intent when they sent this to me. But at the time, I was, kind of just feeling low and just kind of a down place. So it just really, it hurt me. So it just got me thinking about how, let me go back. Why it hurt me was because it kind of just made me feel like I wasn't measuring up in the faith department specifically. And that just really bothered me. And it also made me feel like I hadn't gone through enough I didn't earn my wings to be able to feel exhausted. In this whole journey, like 3 years of trying to conceive is not enough. Like I haven't gone through enough in the IVF world or in regards to fertility treatment. So that was like, that really hurt me. So that got me to thinking about a couple things. And one of them was that I tend to shy away from being real at times because of that fear of somebody judging me or, offering what I call them empty words of encouragement, like stay positive and keep the faith and don't give up. Like in the moment, like those aren't helpful and they just can really bring you down, because sometimes all that you really need is for somebody to just say, you know what you're going through just sucks. And I'm so sorry and I'm here for you. So that's kind of just why that's what led me to the whole Be Real post, was because I just wanted to encourage others to be real, and while also encouraging fellow warriors to just think a little bit before they commented on somebody's situation when they were in that down and out place.
Yeah, it's like texting and messaging are kind of messed up because, like you say, they could have been coming from a completely different mindset of like being supportive, but the mindset that you're in, you read that text as like, oh, just fuck off.
It just kind of, it makes you feel like what you're feeling, like there's something wrong with you for feeling that way. And I don't know, it just really bothered me. But I think it just comes from a place of not necessarily fully knowing what to say, so you automatically default to those kinds of like, well, keep the faith, just stay positive, do this, do that. So
yeah, I used to always get, I know it will happen.
That's another one that
absolutely crazy. I'm like, well, I'm glad you know.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the truth?
So going towards that, because you guys do have this mutated gene, both of you do, so that you're pretty high risk of your child getting it. And it's a cholesterol defect. Is that right? So
yes.
The baby doesn't make its own cholesterol?
Yeah, and cholesterol, I didn't know this, but until we found this out, it's very important in the creation of a human being. So, and me and my husband are both carriers of severe forms of the mutation. So it's just seriously life-threatening, either in utero or after, and it's just awful. So having that and knowing that, we don't want to move forward with anything other than IVF.
Yeah, and then so you'll be doing the testing to see if the baby has the gene.
Which the PGD testing.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where this medical intervention is so amazing, is that it gives you the opportunity. And I know people are going to have different opinions about that, but especially since your husband's already been through something similar, and we have two separate friends that have lost babies after they were born, not because of that specific genetic dysfunction, but for other things. And man, that's hard. And so being able to have that opportunity to not go through that, even though IVF is hard, is a blessing.
Yeah, that's kind of like knowing that information. It's like I feel like we have a responsibility for our future child to make sure that they don't have to go through life with something like that or potentially lose their life as a result of that.
So how are you balancing it all? How are you balancing staying positive and keeping the faith and having that real? I mean, because you have that extra burden. It's not like, I'm infertile. It hasn't, it's a real thing, extra thing that you have. So how are you balancing it?
Well, I think what's helped me to get to that point of balancing everything is, I want to be a mom. That's the ultimate goal. That's the dream. And I think what helped me to get to where I am today is just having some pretty tough conversations with my husband, Seth. Like, we sat down and we talked about everything and all the possibilities and all the possible outcomes and just discussing our hard stops. And And that really just helped us to see that for us personally, we don't have any hard stops. Like, we're going to be parents. I don't know how. I don't know if we're going to have a baby or a child. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that baby's going to be biologically ours. But the ultimate goal is we just want to love a kid. That's all it is. So I think having that conversation and talking through all of that is really important, and kind of just helps you to see the end result. Like, you know it's going to be there. You know you're going to get there one day, because it's not just about having that baby through IVF. Like, we know where we're going, and we know what we have to do to get there, and it just kind of helps you to not wander aimlessly down these, fertility treatment roads forever. So that's really been kind of like, I think, what has helped us to see the light and to just stay positive while also being realistic.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all about living in the moment, but you almost have to plan in these situations and kind of gear yourself up for things not working out the way you thought or you want them to work out. And then you're not blindsided when it comes to it. You can kind of go, okay, we've made that decision and we're going to walk away happy because we've done everything we could. And then we'll continue on our path.
Exactly.
Yeah, awesome.
I think the key is to just to prepare and not be blindsided. Like you said, that's definitely a big thing.
Yeah. We definitely had some heart-to-hearts because for me, I had 5 years of not knowing if I could get pregnant or not. And in between that, our first IVF, we didn't know if we can make healthy embryos after our first IVF. So, the whole, okay, are we going to do donor egg or are we going to do surrogacy? All those questions kind of come up. And when you have a real chat about that with your partner, you kind of start to learn where your journey is going to go, because sometimes your partner doesn't want to adopt or they don't want to do donor egg. So you kind of are mapping out your life. Yeah. Which is a little bit scary. And then, life is always going to throw that wrench at you and you think you're going to go one way and you go the complete opposite way.
Oh, yeah. That's exactly it. Having those conversations is just really important.
Yep. And so what are you doing right now to put more joy into your life, stay positive? I know you're going through an IVF right now, so those meds are messing up your hormones, your mind.
Yeah, my mind doesn't feel like it's all there. So if I'm rambling, I apologize. But no, right now, nothing cures a hard day for me better than just getting on the couch, sitting with my husband and my dogs and a glass of wine, not right now because I'm on stims, but and just watching something funny on TV. It's so simple, but it's effective. It's cured me 100% of the time of the bad days. So I like to just watch funny things on TV. My go-tos are Parks and Rec and Friends, but also things like praying, talking to God. That'll instantly lift my spirits, reading the Bible or a devotional, and music has been so cathartic through all of this. Yeah. I have a whole playlist dedicated to IVF called Getting IVF'd Up, and it just has all of my all of my songs that just lift my mood when I'm really feeling down. And sorry, I hope you can't hear that helicopter that's flying over. It's really loud. But, when all else fails, I like to just go to Disney World. I have an annual pass, so I just, there's no place to lift your spirits better than the happiest place on earth, as cheesy as it sounds. But we found ourselves at Disney a lot on the really hard days, specifically Epcot, so we can drink. So that's our jam.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's too funny. You sound like my sister-in-law absolutely loves Disneyland, and my brother's as long as I can drink, I'll go.
we tend to steer clear of the Magic Kingdom because you can't buy alcohol there. So, and that's where all the kids are anyways, and that can be hard on the hard days. So Epcot's where it's at.
That's too funny. And so what's your best advice for the community of walking the line of keeping the faith and being real?
Well, I just think I had something prepared for this, and the Lupron is messing with my head, and I wrote it down. So hold on one second. Sorry. That's great.
No, you're all right.
I think the best advice is just to hope and pray for the best, and also just while preparing your heart for the worst. That's what I'm doing this cycle, because you have to. Like, I've not always been this way, and it might sound kind of negative, but, you know, just because you have all the faith in the world, all the hope in the world, all the positivity in the world, that doesn't make you immune to bad things happening, and it doesn't automatically mean everything's going to work out. So just kind of preparing for all possible scenarios, I think, is really what you need to do, because, you know, we know that life isn't fair. This whole journey isn't fair, but this is where we are, and this is the journey we have to embrace. So just preparing for all the outcomes that are possible is just really, I think, the best advice I can give.
Yeah, definitely. And like we said before, just, you know, talking out, okay, what directions, and having a few different directions of going, okay? If it works, we're going to do this, this, and this. And if it doesn't work, we can do this, this, and this. And then it's hard to say what you're really going to do and feel like until that situation presents itself, because you might have in your head that, oh, I'm for sure going to do this. And you turn around and, you know, you decide something else, you know. I would imagine these, you know, I was fortunate enough to only have to do 2 full-blown IVFs, and we got some frosties after that. But after my second IVF, that was it. I knew in my heart I was not going to do one, no matter the outcome, because I just found them just so intense.
They really are. You have to have flexibility and be prepared to steer the opposite direction, because you just never know what this journey is going to lead to.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's all I have for you, and I know you got to get back to work. Yeah. But I wanted to thank you so much for coming on, and I love your page. I think, you know, in the thick of it, when you're going through it, like you say, it's easy just to show up on the good days and post things. Yeah. Showing up on the bad days, and, you know, I would say when people throw those kind of comments out, you know, just give them a really good, heartfelt, I love you back. You know?
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing. I don't want anybody to get it twisted. Like, I love this community for the positivity it provides and the encouragement it provides. Like, I would be lost without everybody here. But it's just, I think it's just so important to be real, and I think that does more for awareness when we are real, to really show those sides of things. And, you know, in society, there's so much pressure on us to perform and to always just be on, that it's kind of freeing when you can just kind of give people a peek behind the highlight reel and to show them what's actually going on. Like, and you just, when you're real, not only is it like good for your soul, it's also really helpful to those people out there who might be afraid to share what they're saying, you know, might be afraid to share what you are specifically saying, because they don't want to be looked at as weak or something. Like, it's just, I think it's just so much better to just be vulnerable and open, and I just think it helps people. So
massively. And when you start repressing those emotions and putting them down, and you don't have to express them on Instagram or you know, anything like that, but to your partner or to your friends that, you know, you have trust in, sometimes the only place for us to express is on Instagram, because a lot of us don't have friends and family who have gone through this. I know, you know, I didn't. So, and I didn't have Instagram. So, so it's definitely, as much as I promote being positive and putting in a really good mindset and doing that hard work now, you know, there is definitely a time and place, more so, for, you know, being with yourself and being with your emotions and really grieving, you know, the loss of, you know, what you thought you were going to have.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't always work out to the way you thought, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So, And even I feel like, if you have a biological kid from IVF or naturally, it's still a very surreal thing after infertility and after a really long journey. You don't necessarily, it doesn't fix things. What you have emotionally, and I think IVF kind of brings up some of your emotional baggage that you have before infertility, and all those insecurities kind of like compact on each other, don't they?
Yeah.
So I think it's super healthy. I think what you're promoting is super healthy, and my fingers are totally crossed for you guys. I know it's going to be a hard next few weeks.
Yeah.
And especially with the testing, you might have to wait even a little bit longer. So
yeah,
I'll be watching, and fingers crossed for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.